Take some very deep, slow, relaxing breaths. And letting go of the tension in the body and the mind. And we picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular sacred grove of trees. And inside of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, and it lights us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. And we recognize that this light is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it burns away gently everything that is unlike itself. And we are very grateful for this time that we spend together. And we ask that we be led into a deeper experience of our highest path. And together we all say, "Blessed be." Oh, looks like we're filling up a little bit now. All right. All right. So I had an interesting email that I wanted to share with you and see if I can talk them through some of this stuff. All right, where is it? Here it is. Okay. She says, I'm going to try to avoid using her name and specifics as much as possible. This is like really bad. All the technical stuff today is just really getting bad. Okay. Cancel. Okay, here we go. So she says, said some really nice things about me, which was nice. But then her main question is, I have a question regarding a spell that I have tried to manifest at every angle I can think of for the last year and using many of your techniques, but to no avail. I apologize in advance for the long-winded email, so I'm going to try to long-wind it a little bit. She's a stay-at-home mom. Her husband supports them, and the income doesn't quite cover their monthly expenses. She is trying to obviously do a money spell. And so in 2015, she did a simple spell, and nothing happened. Then at the winter solstice, full moon of 2015, she tweaked it and still got nothing. Then she took my prosperity course and performed all the exercises, dug deep, and did everything very thoroughly, trying to clear her past trauma in the waning moon and all of her blocks, and still nothing. Then she gave up completely on her business and started to work a new spell for freelance part-time marketing work. And still nothing. Then she gave it over to the goddess, as I suggested in one of my podcasts, and petitioned to her guides for help. Nothing. Then she gave it another go on the summer solstice, this time creating a rhyming spell as I had suggested, and then she gave me an example of her spell. And still nothing. So it says, please keep in mind with these spells that I took action, testing new marketing and promotion strategies, searching and applying for jobs, etc., but still in the same boat as day one. Now, a year later, her husband and my husband and I are struggling financially, and him pressuring me to go back to corporate America full time, which almost broke me. I think my husband should get a higher paying job, blah, 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 but I still want my own income stream regardless. So I tried spells to get my husband a raise and a new job, and nothing. Do you have any advice where I can go from here? Okay. This is tough. I totally feel what you're going through. Money can be very challenging for many people. And it's very easy to get stuck when you're doing a lot of money spells in a sense of need. And so what I'm getting when I read through all of these emails from you is a sense of desperation, clinging to what you think you need around the spells. There's a sense of, when is this going to work? I need it now. What's going wrong? And that kind of tension and upset and looking under the covers to see, when is it going to work? When is it going to work? Oh, it didn't seem to work. Let me try something else. Oh, it didn't seem to work. Let me try something else. Let me try something else. Is a great undoing of magic all the time. And I totally understand where you're coming from, because, you know, on one hand, you need something, and then on the other hand, you have to have a light touch in order to allow it to work. And it's a very difficult razor's edge to travel on. So my recommendation is that you get a little bit more universal with your thinking. And so let's just start fresh. Let's let all those old spells go. Let's just cut the ties to all of them and just let it go. And let's start something new. So I want you to say, I actually sent her this incantation, but I'm going to just share it with you here as an example of what you can do. And I want her, and I want anybody that's going through this to do something like this and say this out loud 3 or 4 times a day, meaningfully. There is only one creative principle in the universe. All things flow from that principle. It creates the universe and everything in it. I am a focal point for this divine power. My mind is open and receptive to this power. I am a channel for harmony, beauty, guidance, wealth, and all of the riches in the entire universe. I know that wealth and success are released from deep within my mind to appear in my life as form and circumstance. I am now in harmony with this infinite wealth, both within my mind and in my life, and I know that these ideas are sinking into my deep mind right now and are reflected in every area of my life. I bless everyone I see, and I desire for them all the good things in life which I desire for myself. I am open and receptive to all divine riches, spiritual, mental, and material, and they flow to me right now in great avalanches of abundance. So I'm giving you another angle with that kind of affirmation or incantation. So you don't have to memorize it. I'll write this down and put it on the forum for anybody that wants that one or something like it. You can do your own and recite it 3 or 4 times every day. And then also I want you to fall asleep with a thought of wealth on your mind every night and wake up with a thought of wealth on your mind. And you can do it something simple such as divine wealth is mine right now. Divine wealth is mine right now. And this is the important thing. Anytime you catch yourself getting all worried and tense and when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Or I got this bill, I got this bill, I got this bill. You've got to cancel that thought immediately. Now, I'm not saying don't be responsible, don't be focused on your bills, but worry and upset and anxiety is not going to help you. So you got to let those thoughts go. So anytime you see these worrisome thoughts entering into your mind, cancel them immediately, no matter how impractical it seems at the moment, and try another phrase, such as I'm divinely loved and cared for right now. Or all my needs, financial and other, are met right now. Or divine wealth is mine right now. When you find yourself saying things like it's not working, or why isn't it happening, or why isn't it manifesting, or how and when or where will it come, or how am I ever going to get these bills paid, or everything's getting worse, all of those kinds of thoughts, let it go immediately and change it. And you got to just be disciplined with that. And then have the innocent, childlike faith that your magic is working right in this moment, that you're not allowing it to be undone by any of your fears or apprehensions, your meddling, your doubts, your impatience. No matter what appears before you in the physical world, transform it with one of your great thoughts, like what we've described, or incantations, either something that you've written yourself or something that I've suggested to you. Try not to worry or wonder how or where or by what method your wealth is coming. Keep doing the work. Now, you want to keep going practically, all the practical steps that you're led to do, and all of, doing your very best in the physical world. Again, we're not doing magic instead of footwork and making, doing appropriate work in the world. But make sure that you bless each of those activities with the faith and certainty that your wealth is manifesting right now through your magic. So you don't want to be doing work in the world and then you go do your magic, and then you go do work in the world, and then you go do your magic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, what you want to do is you want to do your magic and let it infuse the work in the world. And not only that, but whether it's money or whatever it is, whatever spell work you're doing. Now, I'm giving you a more simple type of spell work because I don't want you to get, for this particular person, I want you to have a lighter touch, and I don't want you to be so upset about things. I want you to let go of it and just use this type of a procedure that I've described just here. But no matter what you're doing with your magic, whether it's candle magic or angel magic or whatever you're doing, any magical operation that you're doing that's of a practical nature, especially, it's very important that you understand that what thoughts you bring into your world can undo the thoughts that you bring into your circle. So you can't think one way when you're in your spell and then go back to your other thinking. It's like saying, okay, I'm on a diet now, so I'm going to have, I'm going to have no carbs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But between meals, I can eat as much cake as I want. That doesn't work. You can't do that. It's just going to undo what you're doing. Same thing with our magic. You can't create a thought form and then go negate your thought form and wonder what's going on. Okay? So here's another thing. And it's especially difficult when you're in a situation that causes panic. And money is one of those situations. Money and health are two situations that can cause a lot of panic. There's a lot of them, but those are two biggies. You get to the point where you learn how to take it one day at a time. Okay? One day at a time. If your bills are coming due, you need to get clear magically that the bills are getting paid. But what's due today is what we're going to take care of. What's due today is what we're going to take care of. And then what's due tomorrow, we'll take care of when tomorrow comes to be today. Okay? Again, that's not to be irresponsible with your finances. Not at all. But if you're worried so much about what's coming next week, then you have no power. So concern yourself, focus on today. What is happening today? What is happening right now? One day at a time. One day at a time. Now, what I want to talk about today, and this is kind of going to dovetail into this pretty easily, I think, is I want to discuss sphere of influence. And I know we talked about this quite a bit, but I think we need to talk about it again because I got an interesting Facebook message from somebody who listened to one of the lectures from a few weeks ago, and he got the impression that I'm saying when I say take responsibility for your life, he got the impression that if you get cancer, it's your fault. That's what I'm saying. That if you get cancer, somehow you personally created that. And I don't think this person is that aware of what I teach, because if they were, they would know that that's incorrect. But I don't want anybody to get that misperception, because that's not a powerful thing to think in those terms. There is mental causation for everything in the world, but that doesn't mean that you personally caused it. Because cancer is not a personal occurrence that only happens to one person who thinks certain thoughts. Cancer is, like any disease, it's genetic, it's environmental, it's all these things, and all of those manifestations, genetics and environmental causes and all of those sorts of things, they are part of what we call a group mind or a race mind or a generational mind. So yes, cancer is caused, like everything in the world, by a thought, by an idea. But the idea isn't necessarily something that you personally are responsible for. It's the idea in the group mind. And that's what genetics are. Genetics are a physical manifestation of ideas, of thoughts, of information. Okay, so what do you do if you get sick? What do you do if something big happens? Well, you have to focus on your sphere of influence. What can you control? Okay, what can you control and what can't you control? So that's always got to be your first order of business. You can't necessarily control, especially at first, how whether or not how the cancer manifested in your body. For one thing, everything that happens physically, everything that's in your physical existence, as we've talked about many times before, has already occurred. So even the idea of the question of, oh my gosh, why did I create this reality for myself, is a childish question to ask. If you really want to become empowered to heal yourself from any experience, but whether it be health or financial or emotional or anything, the only way that you can do that is by accepting responsibility now for what is in your life. But that's not the same as saying this was my fault. Accepting responsibility for the fact that I got an illness is not the same thing as saying I created that illness personally for myself. Completely different mindset. So I apologize if I misspoke and I said it in a way that anybody misinterpreted that, but I want to just set the record straight that's not, it's kind of silly, childish thinking to think, oh, why did I do that? Why did I create this reality for myself? It doesn't matter if you did or you didn't, because it's done. What's done is done. It's already manifest, whatever it is. The powerful thing is, this is what's here. What do I have influence over? Where is my sphere of influence within this? And then you start to separate what is mine and what isn't mine to influence. You can't necessarily, especially if you're new to magic and you're new and you haven't really had much success, you can't necessarily influence the entire genetic structure of let's say, lung cancer. You can't necessarily do that. That's not up to you to do. And that would be spinning your wheels to try to eradicate lung cancer from the earth or from the group mind. That's not going to happen. At least not today. If you're not quite ready to be able to take on that big of a chunk, it's probably out of your sphere of influence. But what can you influence? Well, you can influence whether you keep your oncologist appointment. You can influence whether you are whether you have a how well you adhere to the medical protocols that are being given to you by your healthcare professionals. You can do that. You can have influence over the things you're thinking about yourself and the emotional energy that you're carrying. That seems like it's sometimes out of your sphere of influence, but it's not, because then you do have what's in your sphere of influence is how many times a day are you going to treat yourself magically? How many times are you going to meditate? How many times are you going to do something to create more of a healing vibration within your world? Now, even though you may not have created the cancer, buried rage and hostility and anger and hatred is definitely fertile ground for cancer to thrive. I mean, whether you want to believe it or not, it's just how it is. So it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to make it worse for you to start letting go and dropping some of those thought patterns right away and doing some real major healing work on yourself emotionally. That's not going to hurt. And many of us have seen what many people might call miraculous healings just from working emotionally. Again, we're not saying that it's your fault that you got sick, but you can definitely kick it in the ass by getting better emotionally and not giving it as friendly of an environment to grow, whether it's cancer or any other disease, ulcers, any of those things. That you have control over how much stress you choose to carry in your life. You have control over how you treat yourself, and you also have control over how you treat other people. Because I don't care how sick you are, it's not an excuse to be an asshole to anybody. And I don't stand for it. When I'm around a sick person, I'm very compassionate. But if they are really asking for help from me, I'm on their case. I'm like, look, you can't be a jerk just because you're in pain. It doesn't work that way. You want to get well. You gotta watch your words. You gotta watch your attitude. If you really want to focus your energy on getting better, you got to be better. Okay? So again, we're not saying that all of this is necessarily going to magically make your cancer go away, but it's definitely not going to hurt. It's definitely not going to hurt. Now, after you've you're working really well with your doctor, you're working really well magically, you're working well, you can get into support groups. There's all kinds of stuff that are in your sphere of influence when you're sick. Okay? And then what you'll notice is that as you start to effect that influence that you have over that sphere, that you notice that your sphere starts to expand. And your sphere starts to expand more rapidly. It doesn't matter if it's health, or if it's money, or if it's relationships, or what it is. You start out first with what you can handle, and as you get better at it, you notice that you can handle more and more and more. But you waste your time and energy trying to effect change where you have no influence, especially at first. So doing spells to stop a war, or doing spells to eradicate a disease off the face of the earth, or doing spells like that, it's stressful, because you're not going to make the change that you think you're going to make. I mean, it might be something. It might be give some support to the whole cause, but it's much better for you to think of that serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay? Because what you can change is huge. What you can change is huge. And when you focus on what you can change and what you have influence over, you expand your influence. If you always are focusing on what is out of your sphere of influence, then you tend to, your actual influence starts to contract, because you have a lack of faith in yourself over time. Hopefully that makes some sense. So now, it doesn't have to be something big and scary like cancer, but I wanted to address that since it was brought up directly to me. This person also said that I sounded like I was quoting The Secret. I don't know if I was quoting The Secret, because I've never read that book. So I don't know if I was. That was just a coincidence, because I don't know that book. I probably will read it one day, but I just don't have a lot of time to read a lot of books that aren't on my docket. Right now, I'm trying to get through Emerson's Nature essay, and then after that, I'm going to dive right into Macbeth, which many of us read in school, but I really want to. There's some meat on Macbeth that I still want to get to. So there's a few other books that I've got on my plate first. Maybe I'll get to The Secret one day, but it's definitely not part of what's out there for me right now. I don't know if it's a good book or a bad book. I've never read it, so but no, I did not get any of this from The Secret. Okay, so what happens for like, let's say it's your grades. Let's say you're in college. Well, there's some things that you have direct influence over right now, like your study habits. And you could do a spell on study habits easily and affect change quickly on that. You could do a spell on retention, on retaining information in your memory, so that it's available to you for during your exams and things like that. But if you've been slacking off, right, and you don't know the material and you haven't handed in all your paperwork, your sphere of influence to zap the teacher into giving you an A, probably pretty low out of your sphere of influence. That's not where you're going to probably have a lot of success. So you got to start removing the chaff from the grain. What do I have control over and what don't I? And the stuff you don't have control over, you learn how to find a higher power. For me, that's the goddess or the god and the goddess. But what, I don't care what it is for you. There's some higher power, even if it's very abstract in your mind. The power that keeps the earth spinning and the planets revolving around the sun. You take the stuff that's too big for you and you give that to the higher power to handle for you. And then what you do is you focus on what's in front of you and what you can handle, and you do your very, very best ever, both magically and practically, to effect change where you have influence. And the other stuff where you don't have influence, you don't bring it into your day-to-day machinations. You hand that over to a higher power, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. And that way, you're acknowledging that it's there. You're acknowledging that it needs to be taken care of, but you're also acknowledging that you can't do anything about it. You don't have change over the election, but you have change over your own vote. You have charge. You don't have influence over the whole election, but you have influence over your vote. You have influence if you're a campaigner, that kind of thing. You have influence over what's in front of you, but don't do a spell to get somebody elected, because you don't have influence over who's going to be elected. That's out of your sphere of influence, and you're spinning your wheels, and you're destroying your power every time you do that. So focus on what you can change, and the stuff that you can't change, you'll learn how to ritually or prayerfully or meditationally, however it works best for you. I like ritual. Hand it over to the power that can take care of it. And when you hand something over, you don't necessarily give them a shopping list. You don't say, okay, goddess, this is exactly what I want and when I want it. Here, and can you hurry, please? That's not handing it over. Handing it over is, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this is supposed to look like. This is out of my sphere of influence, and I don't know what to do about this. Therefore, I'm giving it to you because I know you are all wise, and you will make the best decision on my behalf. You can bless this situation on my behalf, and I have faith in that it will all work out in a beautiful way. Right now, I'm going to get back to work doing what I have influence over. As you do that, you'll look back after you do this for a few years of magic, and you'll look back and you'll say, wow, a few years ago, or even maybe last year, or maybe even a few months ago, a lot of the stuff that I'm taking over and actually effecting change on, I would have never thought in a million years that I would have any influence over that. Never in a million years. And it's no big deal now to me, because I know I can handle it. Because as I work the system of handing over the stuff that's out of my control, that's out of my sphere, that I have no power over whatsoever, and then getting really busy and focused on all the stuff that I can take care of, my influence expands dramatically. So I remember once I was in big financial trouble. Long time ago. I had some real major financial setbacks, and I didn't know what to do. And I remember basically giving myself the same pep talk. I probably even went to somebody else and they gave me the pep talk. Give it over to the goddess, the stuff that is beyond your ability. You don't know how this is going to get paid. You don't know what's going to happen. Financial catastrophe is looming ahead. So you got to give this over. And then what do I have control over? Well, I have control over cleaning my house. So I went and cleaned my house. What else do I have control over today? I have control over ironing my clothes. So I ironed my clothes so that I looked good. I have control over hitting the pavements and getting some new clients or whatever it was that I was doing. I have control over this, and this. So I'm going to make my list of stuff that I know I can get done today that's really powerful for me, that is well within my sphere of influence. I'm going to write that list and I'm going to check each one of those things off. And this is today. Tomorrow, I'm going to take the next list, and then the next day I take the next list, and so on and so on. What I noticed was the more I got into that the goddess met me more than halfway, because I had such a wonderful flow of power focusing on all of this stuff that I knew what to do. And all of the other stuff that I thought was going to be a catastrophe, I kept my mind focused on the solution, not the problem, the solution that I envisioned. And sure enough, miraculous things happened, and it happens all the time, and it'll happen for you too. And it just cleared up in a very gentle, easy way, and as a result of that, my sphere of influence was much expanded. So that when I'm anytime I was in a situation that looked similar to that, I didn't feel so powerless, because I knew I can handle all of these tasks easily. I've proven that to myself. And the stuff I can't handle, I've got some power in high places that is on my side. That's going to help me through this. And that's how I would recommend that you focus on the problems in your life. Not, I am taking responsibility, therefore I have to do every little thing myself. I'm taking responsibility, therefore everything that happened in my life is my fault. Why did I create this reality? What's wrong with myself? Blah, 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 blah. No, that's ridiculous. It's garbage. That's not what we're talking about. That is not it. Taking responsibility is saying, what do I have control over? I'm going to take those things, and what don't I have control over? I'm going to give those things. And then we're going to reassess in another week. And you know me, I say take out some paper. So if you're in trouble, if you're in big trouble, that's when you start listing all the stuff that you can define your problem. That's fine. List it all out, what the problem is. But then you take that list and you say, okay, now what can I do? What can I have control over on this list, and what can't I control? The stuff that you can't control, you have to let it go. Because if you try to obsess over the stuff you have no control over, you are draining your power. It doesn't mean that you're irresponsible. It doesn't mean that you just say, oh, I hope it works out okay. No, you ritualistically let it out of your hands. You invoke, and you give that over to a higher power, and then you get really busy. Now, as you do that, you start feeling safer and more protected and more cared for. And when you feel that way, then you feel comfortable starting to envision some of the ideas of what you would like your life to look like instead of this. If you're immersed in the problem and you're starting to freak out over stuff, trying to figure out stuff that you have no control over, there's no way that you're going to be in a magical state of mind where you can sit and envision what you want, right? Because you're trying to push the world around the sun. Right? You're trying to create an ocean. You're trying to create a flower. You're trying to do stuff that you have no business trying to do. If it's too big for you, it's too big for you. Let it go. Get focused. Get focused on what you have control over. Hopefully that makes some sense. Does anybody have any questions about this? Either audibly or on the chat? No. Okay. I know this probably for a lot of people, this may seem a little redundant because we talk about this stuff a lot. But if there's questions out there, we need to address them. If people are still thinking, oh, why did I create this reality for myself, and why am I so bad, and all of that nonsense, it's just not the magical way. Let's recap, okay? Look at your life right now. Look at what's going on in the physical world. What's going on in the circumstances. Look at what's going on in your health. Look what's going on in your finances. Look at what's going on in your relationships, in your career, in your job, in your home, in your family, in all of your interpersonal relationships, in your emotional state. What's going on with your level of physical fitness and your diet and all of those things. What is your life like? Okay? Look at it. If you want to write it out, that's fine. But take a snapshot of what's really going on. Now, what's the most powerful thing you can ask yourself? Because this is how questions work. What you ask, the quality of your question will determine the quality of your answer. So every time, if you're being a scientist knows how to ask the right questions to get the right answers. Now, if you ask a childish question, you're going to get a childish answer. So if you ask, why did I create this reality for myself? Then what you're going to get out of that is blame, guilt, all kinds of stuff, right? You're going to get exactly what you asked for. If you ask, why does God hate me so much that I'm getting all of these negative things happening in my life? Well, you're going to get the answer based on the question. And so you're going to come up with and you're going to search out for why God hates you, okay? Instead, let's upgrade the questions. And not why did I create this reality for myself, or what did I do, or why am I so bad, or what sins did I commit to that I'm being punished for, whatever those bizarre questions are. Instead, we can say, what can I do right now that's in my sphere of influence that will be the most helpful? What can I do that will give me the most help right now? That's a very powerful question. And you start writing it out. And you look at each of those things. What do I have control over? What don't I have control over? Make 2 columns. I have control over this. I don't have control over this. I have control over this. I don't have control over that. I know it sounds like a lot of work. Well, it's less work than hanging out with your problems. So make those columns. I have control over these things. I don't have control over these things. The things that you don't have control over, you don't just say, oh, well, I hope it works out okay. No, you invoke whatever your higher power is that you work with, you invoke, and if you want to do it all at once or you want to do it one at a time, I usually take one full day and work with each one of those things and just give them over and give them over and give them over and say, I don't know what to do about this. I'm giving this to you. I'm receiving your blessing. Thank you very much for healing this for me, or whatever it is, okay? Because usually the problem with those kinds of things, it's not that you created the reality for you, it's that you hung on to the problem so badly, thinking that it was your responsibility to fix it. And if you knew that it wasn't your responsibility to fix it and you let it go, it could have worked out a lot easier for you, okay? But then what you do is you focus on the other column. What are these things? Now, I have control over these things, so why don't I do magic on those? I do magic on my behavior patterns on this. I do magic on my habit patterns on that. I do magic on, whatever my personality defects are that create me, that keep me from actually doing the things that need to be done on a regular daily basis. And I see myself doing all of those things. For me, it's lists. I make a to-do list every day. What of those things can I do? Again, micro magic. What is the smallest little thing I can do on on that list today for each one of those things, or even for 6 of those things, or for 5 of those things, or 1 of those things? But it's just one little change in perception that gets you motivated toward the solution rather than being mired in the problem. Overwhelm is where we get stuck. And most people are overwhelmed because they are doing 2 things. One, they're taking on responsibility for things that are not within their sphere of influence, A. And B, the things that are in their sphere of influence, they're trying to do them all at once. No, prioritize one thing at a time. Do that. You could even do that 1 a day, or 1 a week, or 1 a moon phase, or whatever. What I've noticed is if you get it listed, whatever it is, if you get it listed, you've already made a mental acknowledgement of whatever the thing is. What I've noticed is even though you're only working on one little thing at a time, your deep mind is a multitasker. Your conscious mind is not. Your deep mind is a multitasker. What I've noticed is as I get more focused on what I can do on my sphere of influence and working even very, micro magic, that my deep mind gets to work at handling a lot of this other stuff for me behind the scenes. And it happens all the time. I'll have this big list of stuff that eventually I want to get done. And I'm just going to focus on the micro magic, on the one little thing that I feel like I can handle. And lo and behold, 3, 4, 5 things just happen for me that I had nothing to do with, not by my own effort. Happens all the time. So what you do when you are focused on your sphere of influence, you constantly are putting yourself back into a place of power. You want to be in a place of power. You don't want to be in a place where your life has power over you. Okay? So if you're sick, if you've got a disease, fine. I mean, it happens. Stuff happens. It's not your fault. Don't blame yourself, but at the same time, take responsibility for it. Take responsibility for what's going on. And that means these are the things I have no control over. And these are the things I do have control over, and I better get busy. Like Marianne Williamson used to always say back in the 80s when we were in the midst of an AIDS crisis, she would always say, look, we're not talking about the flu here. If we were talking about the flu, then maybe it would be, well, maybe I will and maybe I won't. But since this is not the flu, and we didn't have a cure back then, since this is not the flu and people are dying, we better get serious about what we can do. And the stuff that we can't do, we better get serious about handing it over and getting in touch with our higher power. And she was right. Louise Hay at the same time too. I remember Louise Hay. I was losing most of us were back then. We were losing so many friends and so many loved ones, so many relatives. I mean, it was a very difficult time to be alive and to be gay and to be, well, not even to be gay, but just to be anywhere, just to be a person, where an entire community was basically killed off, in a matter of a few years. And then those of us who didn't get sick, we kind of had our own survivor's guilt. It was really, really a scary time to be alive. But one thing about Louise Hay that I loved is she came on the scene, and the first thing she said is, I don't want to hear anybody's pity party. We're not going to do that here. We're going to love ourselves and we're going to love each other, but we're not going to sit and wallow in how, isn't it bad? No, we're going to focus on what is good and what can be good and what we can change. And she was right. And when you change your consciousness at will, the results in your life change. As long as you're not negating that change with your own habitual thought patterns, like we said before, you don't want to eat healthy food 3 meals a day and then junk food in between meals, and expect to have a good diet. Same thing goes with magic. So that's about all I have to say on that. Your sphere of influence is going to make you very, very healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's going to make all the difference in the world once you recognize what you have control over and what you don't.